Hi guys, this is Jeff Hardy here from Acronis, and I'm here with Bruce McCullough from Galactic Advisors. How you guys doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Right. All right. Now this is our first of all this Acronis CyberFit Summit 2022. It's our biggest event ever. It's doing great, and you have a big prominent position here this year. Tell people first of all who Galactic Advisors is if they don't know, and why you decided to come here and sponsor our event.
Yeah, so basically at Galactic, we do three things for MSPs. We provide you an easy way to go through and address security problems in your own cybersecurity stack. And we also provide stress-free third-party assessments. You're probably wondering what stress-free means. Well, stress-free means that...
I'm stressed right now.
Yeah, well, when you think about a third-party assessment, it's always stressful, right? But stress-free, I mean, the difference is if you're going through and you're having somebody come through and do an assessment, and they try to sell your client something after that's done, that would be stressful. Stress-free is when you know that the third party that's doing the assessment is only going through and doing, and we do a lot of penetration testing. So they're just doing the penetration test and they're not going to be trying to sell a security stack or something afterwards. We only work with MSPs, so we're just in the channel and working directly with MSPs.
Okay, this is exceptionally valuable. And just because, I'm one few brain cells removed from deep tech. So let's just say this. It's like if you're the neighborhood mechanic and your customer takes his car someplace else for an oil change, and then they say, oh, we got to fix this for you, we got to fix this for you, we got to fix this for you, and they've taken your customer away.
Exactly. And the other thing that often happens is that oil change place offers like free oil analysis or something like this so that they can attract your clients. And we don't do that. The only thing we do is we provide the analysis. That's it.
Okay, so and you stay completely vendor neutral. You stay completely...
Yep, we're completely vendor neutral. And basically what we do is we make it very easily. So think about it this way. One of the things that's a big challenge for the audience today is how do you go through and communicate cyber risk to your clients? And one of the reasons that that's so difficult is because, we understand it. Like the tech people, like we live it. Like we see all of the examples. We know what the risk looks like. And if you look at your clients, they don't know what that looks like. They have no idea. And so how do you get them to understand that? Well, one way is to tell them, right? To be like, oh my gosh, if hackers get in here, they're going to get access to everything. And then all of a sudden you start sounding like a crazy, right? Yeah. Like you sound like the crackpot. And they're like, yeah, this guy, he's just full of risk and talking about
Get him a tinfoil hat and get him away from me.
Yeah. Exactly. Keep this guy back. So what you could do is you could send them like newspaper articles and help educate them, right? That's one way to do it. A lot of folks do that out there. But the problem with that is we're talking big numbers. We're talking big companies. Like the only thing that makes the news are these big organizations. Right. And a lot of folks out there are dealing with smaller companies. Like, how do you communicate to smaller companies that they're at risk too? And that's where our analysis comes in because it's super simple. Like a lot of folks in the pen testing realm, like they require you to like drop in a device or you have to load software or maybe you have to give them credentials or something like this. Imagine just being able to send an email and having your client or even a prospect click on the link and then have a pen testing team come through and do the entire analysis in under 2 days and give you results back. That's what we do.
Well, now, so educate me a little bit. Let's say, do you do a before and after with new MSPs, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we basically have really two programs. We have one for the MSP themselves, and that's where I recommend everybody starts out. Because, if you're going through and you're doing an analysis on one of your clients or one of your prospects and you've never gone through it yourself, well, we're going to uncover some things and you probably won't know how to solve them. So we don't want that to happen, right? So start with yourself. And basically what we do is we go through, we analyze the MSP's stack. We analyze their cyber hygiene. We go through and my background is actually an incident response. I grew an MSP to $8.5 million in recurring revenue. So I've sat on that side of the table as well. And what we were running into is as we were going through, we started doing these vulnerability assessments for specifically hospitals. We worked with hospitals in incident response. And what we were doing is we were doing these special ransomware vulnerability assessments. And what we noticed is that even if we went through and we showed them exactly where their vulnerabilities were, they didn't understand that they had to fix it because, you're sitting across the table from an executive that's like, oh, I've been doing it this way for like 6 years. Why would I make a change? And also HIPAA compliance, they're like, I'm compliant. Like I have all these things in place, and they just don't see the difference between compliance and security so well. So the idea that I got was, well, why not just like show them? And as we got more and more into this, we decided, why don't we take all of this hacker toolcraft and all of the things that we've learned doing the incident response and build out attack vectors based on those. So it's not just like a red team like putting together a plan. It's actually, this is what attackers are doing, and this is the amount of automation that attackers are using right now.
Right.
And so that's where it all comes from and how it works.
There's a couple of things I really liked about your story so far. The first thing is, and it's kind of an industry term. It's not a pleasant term, but they say eat your own dog food, right? So the first thing,
I like drink your own champagne, but okay. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I like that better. Well, how about drink your own whiskey?
Oh yes,
Okay,
that's definitely.
We'll go with that.
Yes, I'm from Tennessee, so that works.
Lovely. All right. You take and you experience it yourself first. You make sure it works. You get the experience. And not just because it protects you, but that lets you know what your customer is going to experience. Right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And it lets you know how to address it with your customer before it happens to them. Because the worst thing that could happen, you could go through, have our team analyze the network, and then you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
And now, we'll help you. It's actually really cool. When we provide you the report, we provide a separate report to you that has a link in it. And every finding has a link back to training on how to address it with scripts that you can load into your RMM and basically make it so that you can address these things through your environment. And it's vendor agnostic. So the scripts are PowerShell and everything's all set up so that you can just rock and roll. And the nice thing about that is then you can hand it off to somebody that's not like a tier 3 tech, right? Like you can hand it off to maybe a tier 1 engineer that's going through and dealing with these things rather than you trying to figure it out yourself.
The next thing I liked about your story is that you were an MSP on your own. And so you kind of scratched your own itch. You solved a problem that you saw that you had, right?
Yeah, well, that was an itch.
Well, that was a cyber breach right there, right?
Yes.
All right. So, you can hear CEOs screaming in the distance. All right. So you solved your own problem. You scratched your own itch.
Exactly. And so basically what we ran into is when we were going through and doing these vulnerability assessments, we had this really difficult time communicating why somebody would invest in security. You're going to come across people who are cutting corners, right? It's going to happen. And the thing is they're going to be less expensive than you are because they're not doing all the things that should be in place. And that was a real challenge when I was running my MSP. Like, how do you illustrate to that prospect or that client even that they should continue to invest and protect themselves? And that was the itch. That was what I really wanted to solve. And I wanted to make it super simple. So it doesn't even require admin access. Like it can just be a normal user that has no rights at all, just their normal access rights. And we're able to go through and do the analysis from them clicking that link.
That's powerful. And you're touching on something that where I preach to MSPs and even software developers and everybody is that says the problem, reason that why you could have churn, one of the reasons you have problems with your customers is that you're not communicating value on a regular basis. So you need to not just do the value delivery, you need to find a effective way to communicate that value delivery on a regular basis. And it's also a bit of an insurance policy because if you say to the customer, all right, here's your report. Here's the things where we think you need to patch things up, and we know how to do this, and how to do this, so here's the scope. And the customer then has onus is on him. If he says, "Well, I don't want to do that," right? But you then have communicated to him he needs to do it. He's communicating to you officially that he's not going to do it. Also, it protects you as the MSP a little bit, right?
It does protect you a little bit. It actually, having a third-party analysis does a number of things to protect you. The first one is that you're not analyzing your own work. And when engineers go through and they analyze their own work, well, they focus on the controls that they put in place. Right. And that's why hackers get through, because there's all that green space around those controls. So the first part is that you have a third party looking at this stuff rather than somebody on your team that actually set up the environment in the first place. So that's the first piece. The second piece is when it comes down to it, your clients, I mean, guys, I hate to break this to you, but your clients, they think that you work in the dark arts. They have no idea what the hell's going on under the hood. And so when you show up and you're like, oh, I took care of this and I did this, and they're like, wah, wah. It sounds like the teacher from Peanuts.
Yeah.
And so now they're like, oh my gosh, well, what do I do with this? Well, when you have a third party that goes through and validates that for you and shows them all the things that were uncovered, and some of them, will uncover things that you'll have missed. It happens, and the great way to do that is just address it right up front before we even do the assessment. You say, hey, we were working with this third party. The only thing they do is analysis. The only thing they do is breaking into networks. The only thing they do is going through and showing vulnerability. So they will find some things. And some of those things we'll fix. Like some of those things are going to be our issue. And some of those things are going to be your issue, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client. And we're going to have to work through those together. And a lot of the stuff we uncover comes down to like cyber hygiene. Because for instance, over 98% of the time we crack passwords.
Right.
And so now all of a sudden we have like the CEO's American Express password, and it's the same as their Netflix password, and it's the same as their domain password. So now all of a sudden we have a problem.
Yeah.
But it's not your problem as an engineer or as an MSP owner. It's the problem from the standpoint of, okay, how do we educate and change these behaviors inside of our environment? So that's kind of where that leads.
Yeah, it made my brain kind of freeze up when you talked about the Netflix password thing, because it's like I have in my network at home, I've seen it happen. I've seen where an old account. I used to have Netflix. I don't have Netflix anymore. But somehow they got access to my Netflix password, and I can see it being attempted on my other accounts. And it's a real thing. It's funny when it's personal, right? I digress. All right, so you guys are here. You're sponsoring big this year. The CyberFit Summit. We had 1,700 and some odd registrations. I think we have like almost 1,500 people showed. Why? I kind of get it. Why are you here?
Well, so let me just tell you a little story.
All right.
One of the things that we were doing in this incident response, and by the way, guys, when you're working hospital incident response, the IT team at a hospital, they don't call your team if everything worked right. So we're talking backups are screwed, all the devices are impacted. That's when they pick up the phone and talk to us. And as I got this idea and I saw what was happening inside the facilities, and we went through, and I remember this one event in particular. We actually did a ransomware vulnerability assessment for this hospital, and we did the assessment, and then they had us back 4 months later to do a recovery.
Oh my goodness!
And you'd think that the first thing you'd see when you saw that CEO is you'd be like, "I told you so." But
yeah.
But when I saw him, that wasn't the feeling. Like I couldn't even get that out. The only thing I could say is, "I'm really sorry you're going through this," because ultimately. And you guys know this, like you make a recommendation to one of your clients and they don't do it. Maybe they don't invest in that advanced security stack, or maybe you know that they should have a SOC, but they don't do it because you're like, no, they can't afford it or whatever. Well, if you go back and you have to clean up the event, it doesn't feel like an I told you so situation. Yeah. It feels like a failure on your part, or at least it did for me. Like I felt an incredible surge.
Should I have sold you better? Should I have explained it better? But
what could I have done to keep this from happening? And I knew it was going to happen. Like I had seen the writing on the wall. Like I had been in the caves, I'd seen it. And the only thing I could say when I saw him was, I'm sorry you're going through this. And we did the recovery. It took us over 33 days to get them back up and running. And at the end, when it was all said and done, I went back. The first thing I started to do was sell my MSP, and I started this new mission to help protect 1 million people. And that's why we're here today. We're actually really impressed with the Acronis event and how many folks that are here and how many people are really interested in improving the way that they're protecting their clients and also their own environments. And so that's why we're here today. It's an alignment of interest.
Nice. Great. All right. Another question. Galactic Advisors. Why Galactic Advisors? How did you get there? Now, I'd like to think it's just because maybe you're a Battlestar Galactica fan,
Right?
or something like
Right.
that. But you tell me.
I am all the fans. Okay, so I some people are like Star Trek versus Star Wars. Oh my gosh! No, I am all the fans. Okay, and so here's what it came down to. Have you ever gone to a coffee shop and handed them your credit card and had the woman stop, take a minute, say, "This one's on me. Thank you for protecting the galaxy"?
No.
That is why I did this, because I have had a woman at a coffee shop when I handed her my credit card, which says Galactic Advisors on the bottom, stop, take a second look at it, and say to me, "Thank you for protecting the galaxy. This one is on me." That was perfect. So if you're going to name your company, name it something that when somebody sees the name, they're like shocked a little bit.
Nice. That's good. And so you're Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, that was taken.
I got it.
I couldn't go for that one.
That's a little trademark thing with the whole Marvel Universe Disney thing. It could have been a problem.
I think Disney would have been like owning my plane.
Nice. Wonderful, Bruce. It's been wonderful talking to you. I know I've learned a bit about your company. I think it's great. The third-party access and the fact that you're not an adversary to the MSP. You're basically like a tender coming alongside the MSP to help them do a better job for their customers and communicate the value to their customers and protect everybody at the same time.
It's a lot of fun, and I have to tell you, I'm so happy that I decided to do this because I didn't know how many wonderful companies and business owners there were in the MSP community, and the community's just been so supportive. So we're really happy, and just thank you everybody for helping us on this mission to help protect 1 million people.
Wonderful. Bruce, it's been great meeting you.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you. Everybody, Galactic Advisors and Acronis, we'll talk to you next time. Cheers.